Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sloppy Lab. This is Bottom of the Beaker, the weekly show about the design, ducks, and strategy of Keyforge, everyone, and I mean everyone's favorite unique deck game. I am JT Russell, the rat catcher of demographics, and with me tonight is a gentleman who's very excited to announce his brand new venture. That's right, we are releasing a line of puzzles. This is quick draws, jigsaws, puzzles for everybody, puzzlers of all ages. For the budding novice puzzler, you've got your, 3, 4, 5, 7 count adventures. The journeyman puzzler, journey person puzzler, can have a 34 to 57 count challenge. And for the advanced puzzler out there, get the whopper. 3457 in total. And if you use promo code SLOPPY at checkout when purchasing your puzzles, they will swap one of those jigsaw pieces with an evil twin version that has all the jigsaw cuts reversed. It'll look right, but it won't fit. Great gift for that relative you just hate. Yes,
Ah,
indeed.
man. That hits home. My family loves puzzles,
Mm.
and that would be a really, really evil trick to do
Hmm.
that.
I
Um,
Now that I say it, I can't believe it doesn't exist. There has to be like somewhere where you can buy a puzzle that just like has a piece missing, or
mm,
has like one wrong piece, right? It's like, oh,
I
here,
mean,
here's a gift.
sometimes I feel like that's half the puzzles you buy at retail anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
You get to the end of it and you're like, yeah, this is missing a piece, and it happens. So, um, well, anyway, good evening, JT. Happy to be here. And the other thing I want to say that will conveniently line up with the topic of the evening is that my family is also a very competitive family. We love games. We love
Hmm.
playing and being competitive with each other. After the game's over, no matter how much screaming and yelling there is at each other, we move on. And the game's over, and we're not mad anymore. It's just okay. What's for dinner now? But I will say, if we were doing a puzzle together, which we do sometimes, and they found out that I intentionally gave them a puzzle piece that did not fit, I think there would be some animosity that would linger past that family bonding activity. Um, you can play Cutthroat Catan, and you're still family at the end, but you mess with a puzzle, and all bets are off.
All bets are off. I like that. I like that. Yeah, we have some very heated game nights in the Russell household. There was one that I remember very vividly where we were playing some card game. Might have been, gin or something like that, but like 500 rummy. So, stages to it over multiple hands. And it got to a point where my mom was so far ahead, and my brother's like, "I can see it. I'm done. Like, you got it. Good game." And she's like, "No, you like sit down. I'm gonna finish beating your ass till I get to 500."
That's right. That's how we play 500 as well.
Yeah.
There is no quitting. You finish that game of 500 whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So,
But none of us would ever quit because like we're all competitive enough where we would say, you know, sure it's like 475 to 120. I'm gonna skunk you for the next couple hands here and make this a game again, and we all believe we can do it. And so none of us would be quitting.
the real thing is, you have to check the big scoreboard. Like, all right, you won this game of 500. Great. But this is going on the permanent record, the lifetime tally.
Yeah.
Lifetime tally
My
of
wife and I actually
points.
have a full notebook of all of our rummy games that we've ever played.
Wow, that's pretty good. I've never actually tracked 500 Rummy, um, but I have tracked Past the Pigs much longer than I really should have ever tracked Past the Pigs, which is at longest one game. Is how much you
Is
should track.
so I think I know which game you're talking about.
Uh,
Pass the pigs. It has something to do with like you roll the pigs and how they land changes like what scores you get or something like that.
yeah, they're a very innovative set of dice, I guess you could call them. They're shaped like pigs, and they roll in funky ways, and they'll land in ways you expect them to land, and you'll get a small number of points. And they'll land in unexpected ways, and you're like, "Ooh, I got lots of points." And sometimes they'll land in very middling ways, and you're like, "Dang, I lost all my points, or my turn's over," something like that. But yeah, it's a press your luck game. You keep rolling, accumulating points, and you can roll as long as you want. But
Ah,
uh,
now you describe it as a pressure wet game. It reminds me of one of my all-time family favorite games, Can't Stop. Are
mhm.
you familiar with it?
I am not familiar with it. Mm-mm.
Can't Stop is a great one. Not in print anymore, to my knowledge. We got it probably in the 80s. But you have a board. You have four dice that you roll, and the board is like a diamond shaped, or like kind of a, actually it's an octagon. So it goes 2 through 12, with
Okay.
2 and 12 being the shortest rows, and then seven being the longest because seven is the most common roll with two dice. And you roll the four dice, and you have to assign them, like, you know, choose groups of two and two. And so you roll, like, say you roll 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You have 2 and 3, which add up to 5, and then you have 4 and 5, which add up to 9. So you'd put a marker on 5 and 9, and you place 3 markers a turn, and you're just pressing your luck to make sure that every time you roll again, you can use two dice to add up to like one of the numbers that you chose on that turn.
Hmm.
And it's very much like you said, a press your luck game. That's why it's called Can't Stop. And we have a long, long history of playing this game, and not being able to stop, which makes the name of the game very apt. But great game, very competitive game in my family as well.
That was a wonderful description. However, when you said you roll 2, 3, 4, 5, you completely lost me because my brain said no, 3, 4, 5, 7.
Well, you can't roll a seven with a single six-sided die.
You can't roll a seven quick draw. Don't tell me what I can do.
Fair enough.
uh,
That would be a great gift if someone wants to get me a six-sided die that has the numbers 3, 4, 5, and 7, and whatever two other numbers. I don't care what the other two numbers are.
I like that.
But
I like that,
yeah,
and I like the chat. Good stuff from the chat. Lifetime cribbage fudge. Yeah, man. Like, man, my fourth grade class. We did. I don't know why this sticks out so much in my memory, but my fourth grade class, they're like, we're gonna learn us some math. Everybody's playing cribbage for the next like 3 months. My teacher must have had a big cribbage tournament coming up or something because we just like we jammed cribbage for like 2 months. It's just like, all right, cribbage tournament every day in class. Let's go.
yeah. Ketzer says, my mom was so competitive she would threaten to put onions in our meatloaf if we beat her at Mario Kart. Ketzer, I'm sorry to tell you, your mom is not competitive. She is just trying to trick you into eating onions.
Wait, are there not onions on meatloaf? That's just a thing. Yeah.
Maybe Ketzer and their family did not like onions. I don't know, but that to me reads not as a competitive parent, but more as a, I'm going to show them. I'm going to make my kids eat vegetables.
Okay. Okay. Well, tough love. Tough love, it's good for you. It's good for the soul sometimes, I guess.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
So we're not completely on a tangent here to start us off. We are talking about competitiveness in Keyforge again. And this is another one we've talked about before. We're going to kind of, I guess maybe a, a redux of sort of the previous episode dubbed "Are You Competitive?" This one you very creatively titled "Are You Too Competitive?" Two for the second time
Hmm.
we're discussing this. Um, but it's something that's kind of been on my mind a lot more lately as I've thought about my relationship with Keyforge as a competitive gamer and everything else that Keyforge offers. And especially with Vault Tour season still in mid swing, I think it's a good time to kind of revisit, what it means to be competitive, and also what it means to have a healthy relationship with Keyforge with this game.
Okay, I'm on board with it. This is something that's, been on my mind as of late and, to varying degrees throughout my quote unquote tenure with the game, right? I've said a number of times that I've swung between viewing Keyforge as a completely, social outlet, and then all the way the other end of the spectrum with it being 100% a competitive outlet, and then hitting various points in the middle. So yeah, and note from the chat too, national season's coming up. Absolutely. So we're in the thick of the OP season, as it were. So very timely. And both of us having recently attended a vault tour. I know I'm planning to go to the Worlds. It's probably the only other OP event that I'm going to be able to get to this season. But very much looking forward to that. But yeah, these things are on my mind. Absolutely.
Yeah, same for me. And when I think of vault tours and I think of KFC, Keyforge Celebration and the World Championship, I am looking for a competitive environment. I am looking for, like I kind of like you. I've had different relationships with Keyforge over the years. It was for a very long time a social aspect for me, where I could go out on Friday night, hang out with my friends, play some Keyforge, and then the more and more I played the game, the more and more I wanted to be a competitive player in this game as opposed to a social player. And the Vault Tours the last 2 years have kind of been that outlet. And I know this is going to be, a topic that I think has been sort of beaten to death at this point, really about Grim Reminders and Archon as a format in general. And it's really made me start to wonder, like, is Archon the competitive outlet for this game that I wish it is? And um, I'm not sure it is anymore. I've talked before about how I kind of have written off Archon. I still play Archon when I go to the Vault Tours, and given the option between Archon and Alliance, I'm still going to choose Archon. It's something that's just more accessible to me, like something I'm more familiar with. But I am trying to kind of change my mindset about it to not look at it as like the competitive outlet that I want, just because of how much the game has changed with power creep and with grim reminders and how it's sort of, I don't know. I think we can all relate. Like I'm sort of beating around the bush here, but the game is not the same as it was due to the power creep. We see a lot more variance in matchups, in power level of decks, in ability to win games faster. But on a positive note, I think one thing that I have really appreciated from the greater community is I've noticed a lot of players able to just go to Vault Tours, something that I consider a highly competitive area, and just have fun. You just enjoy Archon, enjoy this game for what it is, enjoy Alliance. And when we had Zoc on here before to talk about Winds of Exchange, he kind of just said, stop worrying and just enjoy the game, right? And I'm still not fully there, but I'm closer than I was back then, and I'm starting to feel like Archon may be just, something that I should just learn to enjoy more and seek my competitive avenues elsewhere.
Hmm. So you're seeing this as more of a shift towards beer and pretzels mode when looking at Archon. I don't think that's wrong, and I don't disagree with the factors contributing to it. I've been on a swing with this too. I'm not sure that it's so much the power creep, though that is there. Totally agree, but I think it's more the non-interactivity than power creep per se. Like, yeah, we've gone from maybe turn 6 to turn 5 being the like holy smokes that was fast benchmark, and that's in itself a thing to stop and wonder about. Is this still a game that I can have the same notion of competitiveness with, especially if I'm trying to bring some of my old favorites. Um, but yeah, I worry more about things that are hard to interact with and very consistent and highly accessible. But I think that's a dangerous combo. We've seen it. We've seen it in Force past season, and it's yeah. So I feel your
Yeah,
vibes. I feel your
you
vibes.
mentioned like the lack of interaction that happens, and like again, to put a positive spin on it, sometimes it's fun to just see your opponent playing a deck that you're not familiar with, and then they all of a sudden kind of say like, okay, like you can take a 5 minute break here, watch all this crazy stuff that I do, and you just sit back and enjoy it, just like
Mhm.
appreciate some of the things that they're able to do through combos you've never seen before, or very technical execution of something, and just kind of, rather than looking at it like, oh, this is miserable, I'm getting slaughtered, really kind of look at it from like the viewpoint of, wow, like that's really impressive what they're able to pull off here, what they've practiced to be able to do, and they're executing it really well. Like, kind of just appreciate that instead of you know conceding online early and just leaving the room in a huff and not having fun with it, because it is a game after all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we should probably acknowledge a little bit of bias that we have in in this view, in this lens, as it were. I really enjoy a longer game, slower pace with smaller decisions that can add up to a decisive victory or a decisive advantage, right? As opposed to a shorter game where you might have one or two high impact decisions that immediately decide the outcome of the game, right? And I actually have a great analogy for all of those niche sports fans out there. Quick draw, you know that I'm a squash player. I actually work in the world of squash and racket sports. Um, Squash is a great game for the people who really like to grind out points, right? Especially at the high levels. You see a rally, and it's gonna maybe last a couple of minutes on the longer end, which is a long time to be running all out on a court chasing a ball around. and compare it to, say, racquetball. And if you look at, professional racquetball, you'll see most rallies lasting 2 or 3 shots max, right? The points usually end on the first, second, or third shot of the game. And these are both high skill games, but it's a very different feel of competition, right? You're looking for kind of this like very early decisive big swing kind of moment on the racquetball side, whereas on the squash side you're saying more like I'm going to try and build up incremental advantage and just be a little bit better, hit over hit until eventually I'm far enough ahead to declare victory. And that's just sort of a bias for me. I find that kind of squash grindy element a little bit more rewarding and like fun to engage in competitively. But I can appreciate and admire when somebody pulls off the flashy quick victory too, especially when there is skill involved in putting it together. Um,
I'm not super familiar with racquetball and squash, but I love that analogy too of like the shorter and the longer games and how, those are different games. They look the same when you're, not as intimately familiar with the ins and outs of them.
mm-hmm,
Um, but I love that kind of that information about how, squash can last a lot longer for a single volley, a single set.
mm-hmm.
Um, that does seem very appropriate, I think. Can you mix in Mario Kart there at all?
Oh.
I'm not sure if I can.
It's a little bit like in Mario Kart when you get the banana that circles around the cart, and then you push the green button, and all of a sudden, uh, uh, Luigi jumps up, and and you thought you knocked Link off the edge, but he does a double jump and gets back on. That's kind of what it's like.
Oh man. You know that Smash Brothers you're talking about, right?
I know.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm sorry I asked.
Yeah. You just yeah,
B
I couldn't get to
Hawk will appreciate that one.
Chat GPT fast enough, so
Yeah.
I just gave you the word vomit. Yeah.
um, were you gonna bring tennis into the analogy too, or?
I think tennis is kind of in the middle, at least, and this is just to say that there is a spectrum of what competition looks like and what it means to be competitive in this realm, and you can have swingy sports, swingy outcomes, swingy games where you have high impact and few decisions, and it's going to be something that folks will enjoy and other folks will enjoy less, and that's okay. And I think maybe we're finding ourselves more in the like, yeah, I'm liking the more decisions that are drawn out, and I can build an advantage and not rely on kind of big swings uh, early on to make a big victory. Yeah.
Hmm, yeah. So in back to Keyforge, um, like if I'm not feeling like that competitive drive in Archon anymore, is sealed any better for you? Like, because Vault Tours you're gonna have the chance to play sealed obviously as well, and like, is that maybe a better place for someone to seek out that competitive nature at these larger events?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we both played Sealed and Archon the last Vault Tour. I had the pleasure of opening a much stronger pool of decks than you did, uh, and did pretty well as a result of it. I think, though, I'd like to think that I made some good decisions along the way, but certainly was helped a lot by the pool that I had to work with. Right? Look, I think both of these formats the offer the potential for very, very fun competitive games, right? It's not like it's not like you're gonna sit down and play Archon and not have zero chance of having a competitive game. Same for Sealed. You're gonna crack some decks, and sometimes I'm just gonna open better decks than you, and that's what's gonna happen. Sometimes we're gonna sit down and play Archon, and I'm gonna throw a rock, and you're gonna throw a paper, and that's just what's gonna happen. Um, but there are definitely going to be matchups in that spectrum where they're going to be fun and enjoyable. I think that Sealed offers more of those right now, higher chance for those middle ground. Totally understanding that, yeah, there are going to be folks on either end, but I think the middle of the curve where folks are likely to match up and have good chances for expression of skill and have a competitive playing field are higher on the Sealed side.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like sealed for this as well, but it's not perfect for the reasons you mentioned. Like there's still that element of deck that you bring into the equation where, yeah, if you don't open the right pods, the right decks from the start, you're at a severe disadvantage. But um, it doesn't bother me a ton. I still enjoy the sealed game at Vault Tours. It's still fun. Um, I think I don't know. I've had pretty good success with sealed the last year and a half, um, and so opening a few weaker pods in Rochester didn't bug me too much. I think it's a good avenue for the competitiveness. Um, it's certainly a different thing, but it's still not quite like hitting the right spot for me as far as what I'm looking for
Yeah.
competitively.
And both of these come with a healthy dose of expectation management, right? Like when you sit down to play sealed and you say, I am engaging with this in a competitive way, you have to sort of put that in context of what you're opened and say like today today I'm trying to make this work as best as I can. It's probably not going to be a trophy grabbing run for me, especially in an environment like the current one, right? I think you almost need to open something silly uh, to make it all the way, barring some other crazy shenanigans happening. But yeah, expectation management is a key part of it, and same goes for Archon. I think you can be a very competitive person. Like I am a very competitive person, but my competitiveness is inwardly focused. I compete with myself. I hope that I'm doing better each game than I did in the game before, and that doesn't mean I can. That doesn't mean I feel bad about myself necessarily. If I walk away from getting crushed 3-0 against Riku, I can still say, yeah, I had some things that I improved on there, and feel good about these changes. Or it could just mean, hey, I learned some stuff. Man, this deck that I was hoping would do some work didn't, and as a competitive player, I can walk away with that nugget and say like, yeah, this is a growth moment. I feel good about it. Yeah.
Absolutely to that. Like that's how I felt in Rochester, where I really liked the deck that I played. I made mistakes and lost because of it, but I felt totally fine walking out of Rochester. Losing, I went 3-2, and I'm a competitive player, but I came out of those matches knowing like, okay, like I could have done better. I learned some things from it, and that to me as a competitive player helped me like kind of cope with it pretty well. Like I came out of it happy. I had a good time there for that reason. But I want to emphasize something else you said, which was really about the mindset and going in with the like managing your expectations. I think we'll talk about this more a bit later on in the show, but I do think that it's really important to focus on that. Like, what are your expectations? And what is your, what are you expecting to get out of the game, whether that is a competitiveness or something else you're doing, some other way you're engaging with Keyforge. I do think it's very important for all of us to keep that like front of mind. Like don't go into Keyforge games expecting to win every game and then getting really mad when you lose. Like set the right expectations, set the right goals for what you're getting out of a Keyforge experience. If you're playing a night of games on TCO, kind of like go into it thinking like, okay, what do I want to, I'm going to play for 2 hours or something like that. Like, what do I want out of this? Or I'm going to play in a league. At the end of the league, what do I want out of this? Like if your only expectation is to win, then more often than not, you're going to come away disappointed. And I think it's important to have the right mindset for how you engage with Keyforge, whether that is playing games or other aspects that you
Hmm.
engage with the game as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Um, especially helps me swallow my walk back from Diamond and then KFL. I learned some stuff. I'm good.
NKFL has been really rough on me. Like to be totally honest, like I go into NKFL like I I'm still like NKFL might be one of the closer things for me to the competitive outlet that I'm looking for,
Hmm.
but the Grim Reminders effect has made it much harder for me to enjoy. And last season, actually, the Winds of Exchange effect made it harder for me to enjoy. So I still go into it though with like these, I don't know, maybe not unrealistic expectations, but um, I set the bar high for what it's going to mean for me to be happy coming out of a season of NKFL, and I haven't had the success that I wanted there in the last like 3 seasons or so, and so that's been hard. and I'm kind of evaluating my relationship with NKFL as a competitive format. Like you and I talked a lot before last season about maybe we just bring in like a lineup that we think is fun. Like I thought about bringing like a six Dark Tidings lineup, but then I was like, well, tested it out against Winds of Exchange and Grim Reminders, and I was like, this isn't even fun. Even if I'm playing some of my favorite Dark Tidings decks. So I had to kind of like find a different way to engage with it, and I still have to find a different way to engage with NKFL in season 24, whether I play or not. I'm not sure yet. Um, but do you? Okay, so let's go down the ladder here. For you, we've talked about Archon, we've talked about Sealed. What about Hexad in NKFL? Is this closer to your sweet spot?
I think any format that involves the ability to, or gives you the ability to leave a deck out, like bring a deck to bear in your lineup but not have to play it, is an improvement from a competitive standpoint. So I think Heck has an improvement. I think Best of One Triad is an improvement over Archon in a pure, competitiveness standpoint, skill expression, and also leveling the playing field. Um, that said, and you hinted at exactly this, it's largely going to be a volume dilution thing, right? So yeah, there's going to be some amount of like, well, folks can't bring six bangers, can they? Until they get six bangers, there's going to be some of that happening. But I like too that there are tiers, right? So if you're really pushing for that, you have a thing to strive for. That's cool. If you are hoping to avoid a lot of the monsters, it's getting harder, but that may be a thing that you can opt to do. But my short answer is, yeah, I think Hexad is a better competitive format. It's got its own issues, right? You can still effectively lose or get a big disadvantage in the like ban safe ban step, and then have to play out a 3 game match. That's rough. That can have some feel bads. Um, but in terms of the ability, the opportunity to have a good competitive match, I think it's an improvement.
There have been times when I went through the banning stage of Hexad and really enjoyed that gaming aspect of it in some ways more than the games themselves. Like I do feel that there is still a lot of great strategy in that phase of Hexad, in particular with the order that you choose your decks. Like the bans in the safes are what gets all the attention, but when you're choosing which order to play your decks, to me that's been like the most interesting. And when you're right in like kind of your philosophy of what your opponent's going to do, and you pick the right matchup, that is a really really good feeling as a competitive player. Like to get that part right, even if you end up losing the game. Like I've come away from some games where I lost and said, well, I made the right guess. I had a good matchup. Things slipped away for one reason or another, but like I still come out of that like that game within the game feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same feeling. Although the other part of my brain says like, well, hold on. Should we just distill a 3 game match into a game of chicken? you know, and is that a good thing? I'm not sure. But I think in small levels where it's not deciding everything, it's great. Um, I've definitely been on both sides of that where I felt like I made what I think was the right call, and my opponent, I don't know, rolled a die, and now I'm just sad. you know?
I have seen some players just straight up say like, yeah, I pick a random deck out of my four and play it first. Um, but I've also been on that end of it too, where I don't choose the order correctly, and
Mhm.
after the first game, I'm like, oh crap, I am gonna lose 0-3 because
Excellent.
now
Yeah.
my game two matchup is all bad, and I have to choose this deck, and then my game three is like, it can spiral, and so you have to be very careful about it. But that makes it more interesting too. Like it really does make you feel like, oh man, if I had the foresight to think about this
Hmm.
and make the right decision earlier, I would not be in this situation right now. And so, like, I personally always prefer having control over those decisions. And if I make a mistake, then that's on me. Like that's how I would prefer to lose is
Yeah.
through making a mistake of my own.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy that part of the format. I really do. Even though it can bite me, I definitely enjoy it. And I'm also very. I know Aurora had a format she proposed that I'm curious about, which involves open sequential bans. Um, that I am curious to give a try. So we'll see. I don't know if it'll uh, have the same feel as Hexed. I think probably not, but maybe a good thing, maybe not. I don't know. But curious to give it a try. See where that goes with kind of this like open sequential banning. Um,
Yeah, and just a side note, I guess, Aurora threw that topic at us in the Sloppy Lab Work Discord server. We have a channel in there dedicated to kind of theory crafting on different formats that could be interesting, and she threw this format out there where you both bring, I think, first player brings 4 decks, second player brings 3, or they both bring 4.
both bring 4.
Both bring 4, and then the first player gets to ban something from the other person. The second person gets to ban something. I
So
forget how it works.
I'm now gonna misquote it, right? Of course, but we both bring 4 decks. I look at your lineup, and let's say I'm player 1, randomly determined or what have you. Uh, I look at your lineup, I ban one of your decks, and then I declare what deck I'm gonna play in the first game, right?
Hmm.
So I've chosen one of my 4 decks to face off against your selection of your remaining 3, and then you get to look at my selection and choose one of your remaining 3 to pair up against the one that I'm bringing,
Hmm.
and then we go back and
Yeah.
forth, right? You can't keep playing with a deck that's won
Okay.
already. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to plug that kind of discussion that we have over on our server, and also because Fabulousing is going to be hosting a league through our server that he's calling Rotisserie, where you do like a rotisserie draft of any deck that exists in Keyforge. You basically there's going to be a draft order set from however many players join the league, and you have full selection of any deck that exists in the Master Vault, and you will draft them like a snake draft, like you would in a I guess rotisserie. In fantasy sports, rotisserie is a little bit different. I'm not sure the etymology of Fabulous Thing's name here for the rotisserie format, but basically you're just doing a snake draft where the first person to pick their first deck is going to be the last person to pick their second deck.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's very interested in finding, like what is if you have a selection of all the decks in the game, like what are you choosing from? What are the best decks? And I think this adds not really a deck building or deck construction skill per se, but really like being able to read the matchups of what people are taking in the first round, draft
Mm-hmm.
something that's going to play well into what you see as the meta or what people are going for. But really cool competitive format. If you're interested, come on over to our server and look for the Rotisserie channel. Um, but it does seem to be quite a competitive outlet, I would say, but still an experimentation.
Yeah. Rotisserie. I think it harkens back to a Magic drafting format. I used to. I could be misremembering here, but I remember a drafting format that was called Rochester drafting. But I don't know if I ever played Rotisserie. But I
Hmm.
think they're kind of maybe related. Anyway, I digress.
Fabulous and can answer that question. Yeah,
I'm
I
sure.
don't know the answer to that.
But a cool way to see kind of micro meta crafting in action, which is a neat thing that I don't think a lot of folks have tried before. So that's cool. Um,
Yeah.
Couple good questions from the chat before we kind of move on to. We'll have to circle back to some too. Did if you find out you're way behind, do you knuckle down or try and do something creative? I'm almost always in the knuckle down and maximize whatever possible outs I might have are, even if that's even if my only out is my opponent blunders. I will like set myself up to. I'll try to set myself up to maximize from that blunder. Um,
Hmm.
if I'm wearing the competitive hat, I'll definitely sit
Hmm.
down and wear the chaos hat, and we're just gonna go for the lulls. But usually when I'm wearing the competitive hat, that's what's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way, and I will say there is no feeling that I've ever experienced in Keyforge that's better than being down 2 keys to none when your opponent is on check for key 3 and you manage to come back and win. Like that to me is just, the ultimate feeling in competitive Keyforge to say like I'm not giving up. I'm going to find the right way out of here and to actually pull it off and do it. Um, I can't remember if my game on stream at Rochester was if I was down 2-0 or not, but I was in a real pickle in that game against Blorbs, and
Mm-hmm.
I was definitely in knuckle down mode. Pretty cool that I got to go back and watch that one on stream and kind of see. And even as I'm watching it, like the replay on stream afterwards, I was like, man, like that situation looked real bad, and it was so satisfying to be able to come back from a hole like that and win. So I'm with you, and I'm in knuckle down mode all the time.
Totally. Totally. There were some other good ones. We'll circle back and weave them in. But right on.
Yeah. So we've talked about like a lot of the formats that exist at premier level OP events, and we've talked about NKFL, which is probably the most popular online competitive league. Um, but it wouldn't be an episode of Bot on the Beaker if I didn't talk about adaptive. And I have to say, like, for my competitiveness, adaptive is the absolute sweet spot for me. Like, there's still nothing that I have found that scratches that itch for me better than adaptive does. And I'm thankful that there are other places to play adaptive. Like Kagi's been going for 10 seasons now, and KTL, the Keyforge Team League, is has an adaptive wing of that I've been really happy to be uh, on teams that were happy to let me play that role. Like it's been fantastic. It's been highly competitive, and that to me has been like how I've engaged competitively with Keyforge and what I've enjoyed the most. And the Kagi top cut is right now in the top 8 for Kagi 10. I am still in it. You are still in it. Behawk is still in it, and JDG is still in it. So it's been a pretty big sloppy top cut.
Semi sloppy. And sad.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is literally half the field left.
Literally half the field left. And big sad with not tonight and Behawk facing off in the play-in round. But very cool. We had four sloppies, and all the sloppies who did not face other sloppies are have advanced, which is nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, from a competitive standpoint, like I know Fudgenator's in the chat right now, and I hope you appreciate this, but like Kagi is like my Super Bowl of Keyforge. Like I take it very seriously. I take a lot of pride in what I've been able to do in Kagi for 10 seasons. And like to me, when I engage with Keyforge competitively, like I want more adaptive. I want because this to me, like I've felt the most control in every single game, no matter what. Like I don't remember any adaptive games ever where there was absolutely nothing I could do to win. Like I've definitely lost some games 2-0, but it was never because, all bad luck struck like start to finish,
Hmm.
There's always agency, there's always something you can do about it. And sure, it's Keyforge, so like you're going to lose some games to bad luck. That happens. That's the game that we love. But to me adaptive is like I've not found anything that comes close to it as far as competitiveness, and I hope it gets more attention that it deserves.
Well, I love seeing the Kagi League continue to grow, get more attention. I love seeing the chatter around the format on our server too. I know there's some receipts floating out there, but I've got on stream right now the sloppy chain tracker for the forum that we do have linked in that said channel that'll feed the eventual bot to do your chain bidding, as it were. We'll see if it's better than the quick draw heuristics or not. I don't know.
Which yeah, I still owe the community a very long article that I have in draft that you and Behawk have helped out with.
Your editors are dragging your feet. You can't take all the
No,
blame.
it's not your fault. There's some feedback I need to incorporate still at this point, but I mean, I guess that would be a good transition. But I also think you wanted to give a nod to point cap as well for a competitive outlet, right?
I think it's been again a shout out to Aurora running the point cap league. Yeah, this has been just a joy of and I don't even know if this has been well, yes, a competitive outlet, but also just a great way to explore more of your collection. Um, and also find, it's almost like engaging in Archon, but in a way where you're more likely to get those competitive matches. I mean, I've even been replaying playing point capped games, replaying the rounds as it were, with Not Tonight as the league progresses too, just because it's been very fun to see like what from your collection is under or over cap, and then what matches you can make happen from that. So yeah, I mean, I love seeing the innovation. I really like having some of these other leagues pop up that are challenging folks to think about their collections in different ways and to not go for the same old decks that are known to be crushing it, as it were. Um,
Hmm.
yeah,
It has offered a good variety for sure. It's not, like it's not just an Archon tournament where you just bring Winds of Death key abduction every round. Like you can't do that really. You have to dig a little bit deeper and find something else. So you do see some varied games. Like you're still seeing very high powered decks, but you're at least seeing a variety in the meta, I think, which has been really refreshing.
there's a forced variety, and there's forced variety when doing well, especially right. So uh, if your deck, it's unlikely your deck's going to be able to win more than half of its games and still be available to choose for the next round. Like sure, some other
Mm.
folks could be losing with similar decks, but yeah, it's you're not going to see the one or two powerhouse decks in the known stronger sets just run away with things and dominate the league. The force varieties are
Yeah,
really nice. Yeah, and
yeah,
in a way that feels sort of more natural and less contrived than say Zascap, right? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
So, I mentioned the blog that I've been drafting, and I think it's kind of relevant here because the second part of this episode that we're going to kind of segue and transition into really is engaging with Keyforge as a game in a healthy way. I've been open in the past about how I get frustrated with Archon games and how it's kind of not been how I want to engage with Keyforge, and so it's forced me in a lot of ways to see how do I like want to engage with this game, and that doesn't always mean playing a game, right? Like I still spend the same amount of time in Keyforge as I did before, whereas I used to be playing random games on TCO every night. Now I'm doing different things. So, like you and I here are recording this every week. We do some little bit of prep between those days, which is immense fun for me. And then I started writing blogs every now and then to kind of put things in written form, and so I've been engaging with the game in other ways that I think are more healthy for me, which is important for anyone to think about. Like if you're getting any kind of fatigue with the game, but you still love the game, but it's not really like loving you back, so to speak. I think it's in all of our power to think about how do I engage with this game better? Like I still love this, but like I'm not having fun anymore. So what can I do to make it fun? And maybe that's playing in a different type of league, a different format. Maybe that's doing content creation. Maybe that's, creating something for the community, organizing a league, or supporting other players. Like there's countless other ways to engage with the game that we can still enjoy that don't involve, jamming the same old Archon games that have been wearing us out for a bit now.
Mm. It's a it's an interesting topic, and I know there have been some folks who've been vocal about dissatisfaction with the game or game state lately. I've always tried to interact with the game on a number of different axes, and I'll say now, as we've always said, that one of the best things about this game is its community and the folks involved with it. There's just a tremendous community, very supportive, very welcoming. A lot of great folks, and I very much view Keyforge as a lifestyle game. The majority of my time interacting with Keyforge, I'm not actually playing with it. Right, I'm interacting with community folks. I'm looking at decks, thinking about decks. Maybe I'm that's like 2%, and the other 98% is editing that article Quick Draw wrote. No teasing, but like I love tinkering on like little tools that are going to help folks run leagues and things. Some of them see the light of day, some of them don't, and that's cool. But I think it's nice to have sort of, and I actually will put this out as sort of general advice for any endeavor that you take on that's not your work per se, but it's nice to have consider whether you've got a balance between sort of creation and consumption aspects of your interaction with the thing, right? Like I like being able to consume Keyforge, quote unquote. I'll just sit down and play a game, maybe with a random person, maybe with it's a buddy. Either way, I'm just kind of consuming Keyforge. Other times, I like to be able to sit down and feel like I'm wearing the creation hat. Maybe that's writing something. Maybe that's just you know, as someone might do, crafting an alliance or digging through decks of Keyforge. Uh, for a gem, an unclaimed gem or unrecognized gem. These are all different ways that you can interact with the game wearing more of a creative hat. And I think having that balance is really nice to be, finding a way that you can have a really good relationship with the game. And I get into trouble when I'm kind of over leaning too far into one side of that balance, right? So I'm guilty of this right now, 100% in too many leagues. Like I enjoy doing them all. I like all the folks I'm doing with, but probably playing too many and have not had the time to like do the tinkering or do some more writing or editing, as it were. So yeah, finding that balance is just key to like feeling like you've got getting the maximum enjoyment that you can with the hobby, for sure.
You're in so many leagues right now that it leaves less time for you to develop some gizmos. I'm almost starting to feel bad about pinging you every time there's like a new tool that someone wants to develop and using your programming skills. It's been my favorite joke. Like, to just every time someone's like, "Oh man, I wish we had a bot that could do this," or "I wish we had a program that could do this," and I just like tag JT and he's pinged in a server he hasn't looked at in like 3 years, and I get so much enjoyment out of it. But um, yeah, I mean, like you say that you're in too many leagues now. Like you've done so much stuff like to build up these gizmos. You've done like the random access archives. You've done the Sloppy Lab Work website. You've done the Sloppy Lab Work Discord server we have, and all this other stuff that I think you haven't quite had the time to engage with the game and the community in that way lately. But I also love what you said about the creativity. Like when I was younger, I didn't really think about like the creativity aspect of a lot of things. I didn't consider myself a creative person actually.
Hmm.
And until I started to like actually build things, do things, like go out of my comfort zone a little bit. And I think it's interesting thing for a lot of us to try, like, if playing the game and the consumption is not scratching the itch for you, see if there's other ways that you can engage with this game in a more creative aspect that might be more rewarding for you personally.
Hmm. Maybe that may be. And it's I don't know. I hate to. I don't want to sound down and drear. I very much love playing the game. I just like having these other outlets are kind of important too. So looking to find that
Yeah,
balance. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, it's a good point too. Like I'm not ever going to stop playing the game. I still enjoy playing the game. It's just, you know, if you're talking about consumption of KeyForge with through playing, you want to find formats that call to you, formats that you enjoy. Don't just continue to grind the formats that you know are just going to aggravate you by the end of your session. Try to find things that you enjoy more. Like one thing I tried to do in our server the last couple of weeks is um, create more of an open channel for people to find games of different formats that they seek, whether that is just like a more casual like pet deck game, or like you want to play more hexad, just find someone to play hexad with you casually. It's pretty hard to find a casual hexad player, and I know Riku is listening in right now, and Riku in second act. it has been it has been a very interesting dance to watch the last week, where different time zones trying to find times to play the hexad together, and they always miss each other by like an hour. It's a little
What?
sad, but my point is that I've enjoyed being able to make a space where people can try to like find other people that engage with the game the same way that you do, and play games that you enjoy more than just going to TCO and playing another random game.
I was gonna say between those two, I'm still not sure you've identified a casual hexad player.
Well, I mean, second act is actually not even in NKFL right now.
Mhm.
So does that make him a casual hexad player?
I guess in a technical sense, perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah. Test league only.
maybe so.
Riku chiming in. Please play Hexa with me. I'll play with you again, Riku. But I need to go back to the lab and work on my lineup. I got smoked last time.
Yeah. How did your last matchup go with Riku?
You ask like you don't know.
I have no idea if you lost 3-0 or not.
I lost 3-0. I lost 3-0, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't like oh that was beautiful. No, no, it was like that. Oh boy, look away. Yeah, yeah. Oh, we had at least two good games in there. The third one, it was still a good game. It was still a good game, but I don't want to get into my like, oh, should have done this, should have done that. Would have won them all three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess another thing here, it's not really how you engage with the game, I think, that's important, but also like just be honest with yourself about the amount of time and how much you're engaging. I think
Mm,
burnout is a real thing. I know some people have kind of hinted that they're feeling some Keyforge burnout, and it's possible that, playing in three different leagues and, putting in like 10, 15 hours a week in games is a little bit too much, and just try to recognize like what the healthy amount is for you. And if playing 15 to 20 hours a week of games is burning you out and causing you to want to bring that number to zero, maybe try to dial it back and engage, 5 hours a week to stay engaged with the game, stay involved in the community, and still enjoy yourself without getting to that point of burnout where you're like, I need to quit cold turkey right now. Like
mm,
you don't have to devote as much time as maybe you historically have to still enjoy the game. And I'm not encouraging people to play less. I want people to stick with this game long term and to find the healthiest balance for them mentally to engage with this game. I think it's really important to think about.
totally. I think one of our goal or our goal initially when we started was to kind of share our enthusiasm for the game, and this was a very introspective episode, certainly. But goal remains unchanged, and I would like to expand on that and say folks who are going to be hopefully lifelong, many year long. Patrons of the game and who engage with it as a lifestyle game too, and are as obsessed as we are and care as deeply about these things as we do. Yeah.
Yeah, as someone who's played a out of print or quote unquote dead CCG for over 25 years, I have full confidence that Keyforge is not leaving. Like for me, I'm never going to stop playing this game, and I think there's a lot of people that feel like me as well. So like, I am not at all worried about like not being able to play Keyforge in 10 years. That's not a concern for me. It will be here. I'll be playing it. A lot of other people will be too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is why we're scheming grand designs for adaptive and such.
Playing the long game.
That'll be just enough time for our best of three match.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
mean a best of three Vault Tour? Is that
Best
what you kind of mean?
a full best of three adaptive Voltor. Oodalali, that would be something. That would be something.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the diehard adaptive fans would advocate with a straight face for a best of three adaptive
Um,
Voltor.
no, since I'm getting older, I need a little bit more sleep. And,
Mm,
you know, 10 years ago, I would have jumped at that. I'd be playing all night. I wouldn't have any issue with it at all.
mm-hmm.
But there's still room for larger competitive adaptive events, single day events that don't involve best of three and don't involve that kind of time commitment in a single day.
Sure.
Still ways to do it.
Still ways to do it. Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. And I don't know. You may see in some adaptive events. I don't know. Next year, one way or another, it would be fun. Quick
Yeah,
Draw's
I
coming
mean
around.
we've talked for a long time about organizing leagues, and I think this is something that is still in our minds to do, whether that is online or in person. I think that kind of engagement with the game is something I'm still very interested in doing. Community building and just kind of connecting people. Really, it started as a social game for me, and it sounded like for you too. And being able to do that is still very rewarding for me. And so, um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe this sounds a bit like a sappy episode, and it's not really meant to be. It's just trying to make everyone be mindful of your mental health with this game, and just understand what your limits are. Really, just want to have a. I just want to give a good message, like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, no. I mean, you could find or replace Keyforge with Magic or Fab or any other hobby you might take on there. At least in terms of finding a balance and striving for a good balance there. I mean, I played before Keyforge. I played Magic for 2+ decades and waxed and waned on having a good relationship with it and not in that time period, and I don't know, would have loved some of the knowledge I have now and force back then to kind of steer my young endeavors, as it were. Yeah, youthful
Yeah.
endeavors, as it were. Well, before we start tearing up, I don't know.
Speak for yourself.
Oh yeah. Any? I'm of course just referencing the crushing defeat or victory. I don't know which it'll be at Zox's hands later this evening in an oubliette match. Oubliette match. Yeah. I see you in there,
Ooh,
Zoc. I
yeah.
see you, Data Forge stream. Don't think I don't.
He's just waiting. He's just waiting for this sappy episode to end before he gets competitive on you.
All right. All right. Very good. Well, any other notes you want to hit? Quick draw.
No, I think we hit it all. Just in summary, um, engage with the game how you want to, what makes you the most happy, and it's going to end up kind of going to the rest of the community. It's going to be kind of spread out like that. If you're happier playing this game, then it will make others happier engaging with it as well.
Well said. Well said. And you know what else is well said? This note from our sponsor, Quick Draw. This episode of the Bottom of the Beaker was brought to you by Bat Drone Batteries, the ingenious power source that ensures you never run out of juice. Bat Drone batteries are designed with cutting-edge technology that subtly siphons power from surrounding electronics, keeping your devices charged and ready for action. Whether you're deep in a crucible battle or just navigating daily tasks, trust Bat Drone batteries to provide a continuous, reliable energy supply. Everybody else's. Stay powered up and always in control with Bat Drone batteries, where innovation meets stealth. Yes, indeed. I don't know, Quick Draw. I could definitely use those Bat Drone batteries when I'm out on the train or use my laptop, and the guy next to me has his full charge on his phone. I'm like, my juice is running out, you know?
Yeah, well, there's a reason that Bat Drone steals one.
Yes, indeed. And we never sit still. Take. Yeah, it steals. Yeah,
Borrow,
borrow.
right?
Yeah, quote unquote borrow in the shadows. In the
There we
shadows
go.
way. Indeed. Well, folks, too, I should let you also know that Bottom of the Beaker is recorded live on Wednesday evenings right here at twitch.tv/sloppylabwork. You can find recordings of our past shows and other streams over at youtube.com. We are at Sloppy Labwork over there. For the very best content, 34? No, 57 times distilled and scraped from the bottom of the beaker. You can search for that very phrase in your podcatcher of choice, and we'll be there, ready to play a game of Keyforge with you, whether it's competitive or not. Yeah. All that and more at sloppylabwork.com. And Quick Draw, got any words for the folks getting off of the final audio stop?
Thanks for listening, everybody, as always, and stay sloppy out there.
Stay sloppy indeed. Very good. Well, oh man, I kept, oh dang it, I kept the sloppy train jacker up this whole episode just in the hopes that somebody would punch in the form URL freehand, scrape from the screen. But yeah, put your adaptive, not results, bidding results in there as you come to them. It will help. It will help immensely with nefarious plans. I think I can make. I feel a little weird about this because I said initially that it would be private, but maybe we'll see if folks feel weird about sharing the sheet publicly that the things around. I don't want it to feel like, hey, these guys are, stealing our, hoarding our datas and things. And I honestly don't know if many folks other than me have put stuff in anywhere yet, so it could be okay.
Is this the second one? Actually, I don't know if I did the second one.
So this shows just how much you're following along Quick Draw, which is terrible
Yeah.
because this is not a chain game. This is a forum for folks to put in their decks that they played in not a Kagi, an adaptive match, and the bid that was made for the bid on deck. Yeah. So collecting that info, and then we're going to use that downstream to make to make an AI that's going to take over the world of adaptive. And
Yeah, I'm not sure how I missed this one.
I slid it under the radar, under the radar over there.
Hmm.
Um, but that was preamble. That was not preamble. That was smokescreen for. I was going to share some stats here, but I'll share it with the folks who are on right now. Um, uh, I have some just kind of it was an opportunity to reflect on how I interacted with the game competitively, quote unquote, over the last couple of years, and yeah, you can take a screenshot if you like. I don't know. I don't know if you want me to narrate a chart to you, but yeah, some nice spread between. I was actually surprised I had almost 100 Hexad games across the last couple of years. Yeah, versus around 1,000 Archon ones. But in any event, there's things, and no Murph. Not imagining a Kagi data collection monopoly. I'm specifically not caring about who won the matches. All I care about is the exact decks and bids that were made for them. Um, yeah, yeah. You can keep the Kagi data monopoly for yourself.
And we will be talking about the Kagi data again soon. Not sure when
Soon,
exactly.
soon TM. I have
Soon
an
TM.
we have an audible, audible, not audible. What's the agreement? Agreement that's verbal agreement.
Oral agreement?
Oral agreement, verbal agreement. We have a
Verbal? I
verbal.
don't know.
We have a verbal from Murph
A verbal commitment from Earth.
that will do some Kagi statties. Yeah.
Yeah. So you are you playing a match for Data Forge stream? Is that what's
I
happening next?
I think so. Zoc, you want to hop in and we'll play, and then we'll take quick draw out of the lab, unless yeah, put it in writing. Twin official types. Basically, that 211 is so on my sheet. I have a uh, column that tracks an event, and then like a season or you know number or what have you. And I counted anything that was for an event as a quote unquote official. Are we too competitive? I think we did answer that we were probably, or maybe we didn't say it explicitly, shame on us, but I think we were probably hoping we were probably too competitive for where Archon is at currently. Is maybe where we landed there. Um, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll ping you, Zoc. Um, and I had my decks two decks up here already. So Oubliette, I'll just good 5 minute episode after. Yeah, I'll edit that back in. Too bad I stopped the audio recording already. We'll leave the folks guessing. Yeah. Uh, Playing Oubliette with Zoc now. Yeah. So I've got Russell, the
Yeah.
inadvertently unpopular. It's going to be a lot of fun to jam a namesake deck from the wild. So a Grim Reminders deck, but not a Geistoid deck. Very cool. And pairing that with Fletcher, the rat catcher of demographics. So I very intentionally did not ban Geistoid here. And we're going to see if I can. We're going to see if that was just a terrible idea or makes me a mad scientist, or maybe I'll just get lucky. I don't know.
So what was the first deck? I see Fletcher and then okay, Russell. Gotcha. Um I think Data Forge stream has dropped because he's going to be streaming this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um can you share what house band you was? Or did I miss that?
Yep. I banned Unfathomable. Unfathomable.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Probably because you didn't want to play against the Dark Tidings Whirlpool decks, right?
Dark Tidings Whirlpool decks. If I can spell Unfathomable. Yeah. So I've got the Dasania, hoping to punish some Wadka stuff. which would be a lot of fun. I don't know if it's going to be enough. It's just going to make me chuckle if it happens. And and I banned Unfathomable mostly because I'm going to be doing some handcrafting and just didn't want to deal with abyssal sites and befuddles and things. And it's
Hmm.
that aside, it seemed like a uh, that aside, it seemed like a reasonable value ban if I was already committed to leaving Geistoid.
Yeah. I already played my match this week. I banned Mars. There weren't very many people that I've seen so far that banned Geistoid. Um, my feeling was that like throughout the course of ABR, there have been this season of ABR, there have been a ton of Archon formats and Grim Reminders formats that I feel like most of the best Geistoid decks have already been used. So I went with Mars in mine. Turns out I didn't hit any of my opponents' um, decks with Mars, but I wouldn't have hit them with Geistoid either. So uh, yeah, we just played a good old, I guess it's Biad. It's called
Biad, yeah.
Biad. Biad best of one. So
Okay. So I'll yeah, just exchanging pleasantries with Zoc. But my Unfathomable ban hit, yay! And they banned Geistoid, so I have the choice between my decks, and we'll
hmm.
see what can match up against Moet.
All
Moet,
right.
another,
Well,
yeah.
in the spirit of fair competition, I will let you and Zoc handle it from here. Um, I will drop off the show right now, but stick around to watch you on the live stream for the rest of the game. If that
All
sounds good.
right, sounds good.
All right.
Sounds
Well,
good.
good luck. Have fun to you and Zoc.
All right, thanks, bud.
See ya.
Bye. Okay, cool. We'll see how this goes. So I have to decide which deck to play. Ooh, Moet looks spicy. 13 pips. Lots of berserkers being made here, blowing up the board all sorts of ways. Ooh, lolly. 16 creatures. Some big nasty stuff too. So Fletcher is a very cool deck here in that I can generate lots of amber. I got some double tribute and exile 6 separate things happening, except not a ton of board control. Yeah, there will be reaping. Yeah, there will probably be reaping. Um, I also have a Desania to punish. Did they have just scoop up? Okay, just scoop up. Interesting. Scoop up doesn't get counted as an archive card. Hmm. Yeah, I don't love either of my options here. Fletcher can get boarded very hard, and I think that their board control may be too much for Russell too. So I'm advantaged in the oubliette sense, uh, but I don't like either of my matchups still, which probably means I didn't make a great lineup. Hmm. Well, well. They've got only mix, Iron Captain, Grammaticus Thrax. Very thin on amber control. I think I think we're gonna take our chances with Fletcher. See what happens there. Seems like it could be fun. Although a few pips. No, we gotta play the Russell deck, right? Let's play the Russell deck. That'll be way funner. Way more fun. Funner. Although each time I look at this, it seems like even a worse decision. Sheesh. All right, folks. 100% Russell. Just kidding, Fletcher. Okay, we're good to go. Russell the Funner would be the best name for a deck. I wonder if I can fit all those in a game found. Yeah, Moet does things. I want to say I've faced this deck before. It is spicy. It's really spicy. Um, don't love either option. Ah, we're going Russell. We're going fun. Namesake. Flip flop one last time. All right. Game is ABR is our password. And we're going to go with the unpopular. Russell the inadvertently unpopular. Yeah, this may be an uphill battle. I think they'd both be uphill battles in different ways. Double brick nasty. Oof. Brutality. Has to destroy them all as well. Yeah. I think I'd just rather be doing shenanigans with Lee and Missile Officer Myers. Speaking of, yeah, competitiveness, if you can't tell, this may not be the 100% competitive hat we're wearing tonight, but that just means you might see some wacky shenanigans instead of very boring min-maxing. Oh, thanks for hanging, Ketzer. Good luck and have fun to Zoc. So, some context. We have some ground to pick up in this ABR season. This is the last round, and we've got some ground to pick up if we want to make it to the playoffs. So we'll see. This may end up being an important match. I don't know. 2-2-2 hand. Early Lee. Soul Bomb is usually great. It's not going to do a ton of work here. I like to pair it with the Rot Feast. Soul Bomb, Rot Feast. Where are we at the standings? I think we are lower than fourth by a couple. We might have to make up like 4 or 5 points to make it into fourth place, which is a hefty order, but not impossible. Not impossible. All right, we're going to move some cards here, put something in the discard pile with Scout Pete. Near future lens. Let's be greedy and keep it there. May have been better off just going Brobnar there and holding the... and welcome, Wallaboo. Good to see you on the chat. But yeah, may have been just better off holding on that bad chemistry. I have a big number for the C, but it's actually pretty thin when you dig in. And if they unload a large board of Saurians or Giants here, it may have been nice to keep that around, but we shall see. I'm hoping to get that lens down and now and get some value out of it. Don't mind letting a Lee go first. They'll chain together nicely towards the end, and I have some other recursion options later too. RX Propaganda, Sag. So they just go into Mars, play Propaganda, and reap. Wow. That is interesting. That is a very funky turn. Feels like a fresh marks might be coming. I'm trying to think of what else would push them into that for a turn. Fresh marks feels likely. Scoop up? I don't think we hold the scoop up there. I mean, I could also see them take another slow Mars turn to move the lone Mars card and craft a little bit, but I feel like there's a reactive off-house thing. But in any event, it seems like we're going to have hopefully a clear chance for a clear path for the NFL. So we can get rid of this Raider with Pete. Yes, thank you. Shock Herder's coming. Nice. I I may just discard Lee. Is that silly? We'll play it. I'm not super confident in the read on the fresh marks there, though may watch me be proven right. They may also have the Brick Nasties and just wanted some bodies to fight in with. That's possible too. So more and more likely scenarios here leading into maybe discarding the creatures should have been better. But we'll see. If they go double Brick Nasty, make some dudes and fight, we'll be feeling sad. Pale kills the lowest powered creature. Okay. And I have Soul Bomb on top. I like that a lot. Okay, so pops their ward from the fight, and then still gets to destroy itself after fight. Cool. Would have loved to get value from the Bog Spitter here. So I think we do play the first Moric. We're going to burn the Witch. It's going to fight in the middle Berserker, splash some damage, and then we're going to pitch the other one to finish off Mix. I'll end with two dudes, but they'll just have the Berserker, the one Berserker. So we'll see. And I'm going to keep this Bog Spitter around. Pile some damage on there. Okay. Cool. Ooh, very interesting. Don't mind seeing this recklessness to pair with the Bog Spitter. Would be very sad to see Missile Officer Myers go. The deck has some cool Missile Officer Myers tricks, but I'll still have another Lee coming and the recursion, other recursion stuff to make it happen. So it can go. NFL reveals the other Lee on top of my deck. Okay, so we'll probably be letting ourselves draw this Lee rather than playing it. We'll see what they do. I can go into Star Alliance to play the Recklessness too, which is kind of cool. Making some tokens. Yeah. It's looking pretty strong. Very nice. Very nice. So we have Lee on top. We could activate this Soul Bomb. It would still leave Jarl, two Berserkers after that pops. Don't think that's going to be worth it. I honestly like that turn best still, I think. We'll draw the Lee off the Recklessness. Do I want creatures? That's the other thing. Get Mork to discard the box, but if I really want to, or I just go Brobnar. That feels bad too. I like this. I like the Star Alliance option. I think for a little extra dig. Yeah, we're gonna go that route. Okay. Cool. So that's kind of nice. We're going to stun all the Brobnar dudes. We did get our one steal. Lee can come down. Get the other Lee. I'm exposing myself a little bit with more creatures to fight into. But I don't know if we're really have the luxury of holding back here. I think we just got to go for it. I can have a Lee fight in. I could bring in Witch of the Eye and hope to set up a Untamed turn next if they somehow don't manage to kill it. Feels unlikely. Just get the Grave Pixie for some value. And I should look. Okay, I've got a Calm Officer Palic on top. Okay, I think we'll play this Witch and at least make them think about it. So Rotfeast is a great draw there, and we have the Soul Bomb teed up. If for some reason they do not pull way far ahead on this next turn, that's gonna be a nice swing. There is a possible case to be made for getting really greedy and putting Phoenix Heart on something that Rotfeast would kill, and then I double up on damage when I do pop the Soul Bomb. Haunting Witch is showing on top of my deck too. Yeah, it'd be really, really silly if Witch of the Eye survives. I could double Rotfeast for starters. Let's see. Yeah, this is a very cool, sure thing. Zoc wants to change house. No worries there. Brobnar seems good. Plays Brick Nasty. Gives me a key. Wow. Okay. I think we just double Rotfeast and then Spooky Charge when the dust settles. Seems pretty good. I mean, if I were there's really no window to get the Phoenix Heart down, unfortunately. So I think we just go for it. We'll get to play our Grave Pixie 2. It'll get archived, and we'll make a Spooky Charge key. Pass with check for key 3. We'll make, 9, 18 amber from the Rotfeast. 2 more, 22, 3. Yeah. Okay, seems pretty good. And card on top of deck is the Haunting Witch. Still, I mean, I don't think there's any reason not to do it now. Yeah. Okay. Get this money too. Doesn't matter, they're all gonna die. Rotfeast. Oh no, I've made a terrible mistake. Biggest blunder. Oh, I can still auto-resolve. Phew. Okay, and then we'll Spooky Charge and make a key. With check for key 3 at 26 amber. Okay, that worked out all right. Yeah. This is why he's unpopular. But yeah, good game, Zoc. That lined up well for me there, for sure. So the other cool thing that this deck can do. They're saying that was a nice burst, and yeah, I'm just saying it was a nice draw on the Rot Feast. I kind of drew it right. I just kind of drew it right there. And though I guess if they were watching the chat, the NFL reveals like a hawk, they would see it. But it's like, yeah, it's tough. Um, the unprepared coming up big. Unprepared coming up really big. Yeah, not much in the way of board clears here, though it claims 18C. That Soul Bomb is really your only way to, yeah, crazy card that goes under the radar. But yes, Rotfeast Soul Bomb, very fun, and very fun with Phoenix Heart to set up some shenanigans. There's other things that you can do with the Soul Bomb too to clear the way for Lee to come in and bring back a Shock Herder that readies your Lee, brings back another Lee, brings back a Shock Herder, brings back a Lee, brings back Missile Officer Myers, which can go next to the Shock Herder, and if their board is empty, then you can rule of 6 the Missile Officer Myers, then reboot the Lee again, and then get some other stuff. So it can do some really, really silly things when it's got a full discard uh, and an empty board. But I like that it makes good use out of the Legacy Phoenix Heart too, getting some extra plays out of key creatures or doubling up on the Rot Feast damage. But I'm not sure how often I've gotten to double Rot Feast. That was pretty cool. But anyway, I'm gonna sign off there. So thanks y'all for hanging out in the chat. Good times, and we'll see you around the lab.